Our friend Larry Johnson is back with us. Welcome back, Larry.
Hey, we survived the weekend. No massive nuclear war, so that's a good thing.
And June is
And
gone.
and listen, I am really getting irritated with you. You know, I thought I had the corner, seized with respect to shirts, but man, you keep showing up with a better shirt every day. You know, you're looking good, looking good.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah. I've had some of mine for 20. In fact, I've had some of my shirts are as old as you are. Okay.
I totally get it. Larry, getting started with what has happened in the Middle East. And
Yeah.
it seems that Donald Trump, I don't know if we can believe that after that attack on Iran, he's done with the case of Iran. What do you feel about him and his current policy on Iran? Are we going to see new attacks? Are we going to see some sort of pressure on Netanyahu? Because the other day he came out literally defending Netanyahu and his position in Israel, because Netanyahu was facing the many problems in the courts in Israel. What is your take?
Donald Trump's not finished with attacking Iran, and if the Iranian officials are foolish enough to think that okay, he's going to let us alone, they're going to be, um, not just disappointed. They'll pay with their lives potentially. Um, Donald Trump's a little bit like that character Salasso from the movie Godfather, you know, um, and the people that if they've seen the movie, they remember the scene where the Don Corleone's son Michael gets beat up, jaw broken by this corrupt police captain, and who's in the pay of Salasso. And then when he comes back from the hospital, his other two brothers, characters played by Jim Caan and the character Hagen, um, Robert Duvall, they're having an argument about Duvall said, "Oh, we got to make a deal with Salazzo," and Caan said, "Oh, I'm going to kill him." But the character played by Al Pacino just says, "No, Salazzo wants to kill. He's not going to stop until Dad's dead. We got to take care of him. I'll kill him." Now, I'm not suggesting that Iran get out in the killing business. In fact, we've seen this ridiculous false story being pushed that Iran is calling the Ayatollahs issued a fatwa to assassinate Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu. Read the fatwa, you morons. That's not what it says. But, the only ones who are actually talking openly about assassinating a foreign leader are the Israelis, the Israeli Defense Minister Katz, and people like Lindsey Graham. I mean, it makes me absolutely crazy to watch this combination of these Zionist Israelis and Americans who routinely call for the murder of Iranian officials. And look, let's do the body count. Who's been assassinating who? Okay? Give me the list of Israeli officials assassinated by Iran. 0. Give me the list of American officials assassinated by Iran. 0. Come up with a long list of Iranians assassinated by Americans and Israelis. Enough already. Sorry. See, you got me on a rant. Get my blood pressure up this early in the week.
Larry, yesterday I've seen that Marandi shared a photo, a map that shows there are various planes and airplanes coming to Israel. I don't know what's the activity there, but it seems that he was suggesting that they're preparing Israel for a new attack on Iran.
Sure. I think that's right. They're going to look for an excuse. Because again, as I've said before, this is not about Iran's program to enrich uranium, that Iran's going to get the bomb. This is more about they've got to get regime change, because as long as Iran is in this relationship with Russia and China, they're a threat. Iran is a strong pillar of BRICS because of Iran's combination of oil and natural gas. It's a far, far more important member of BRICS than Brazil or South Africa. South Africa's in it just because early on they say, "Hey, we'll join." South Africa really brings nothing to the table. Brazil with Lula, sorry, it's not a trustworthy partner at all, and it's now president of BRICS, and it's done nothing to really promote or build up BRICS. So, but I think Russia and China correctly recognize that just Iran, by virtue of its location and its natural resources, is really a strategic ally. And I don't believe that they've spent the last 7 years conducting joint military exercises with them just to cut them loose and say, "Oh, you're not important, you're not relevant." Those who argue that, Russia's not going to put anything on the line to save Iran, I don't think they've been paying attention. But everyone's entitled to their own opinion, I guess.
But if we consider that Israel would attack Iran, I don't know what else can they do in terms of, because they attacked the nuclear facilities, they did their best shot, that they did everything that they could do, and with the regime change, I don't see that getting anywhere close to what they wanted to achieve, because Larry, it's not just about Iran. They had a lesson to learn with the case of Russia. They did the same to Russia. They wanted to do regime change in Russia in the initial in the first year of the war. They did everything. You remember Michael McFaul coming out and tweeting, "These are not Russian people. This is Putin's war. He's attacking." I see the same attitude, Larry, happening with the case of Iran. And as time goes by with these attacks, Iranians know who's the enemy right now, because many people, we had some sort of division in Iran between far right, far left, people in the middle. They were advocating for negotiations, talking with the West. But this attack on Iran has literally changed everything, the vision on the part of the Iranian people. They don't see themselves as liberal, far right, left, religious, non-religious, and they are prepared to support the country, because the country's attack is not about the government.
Well, this sort of the Hollywood version of this is that you thought we could, you kill a few people at the top, and the regime would implode, and these folks who are in support of the United States and Western Europe would rise up and take control. The West has really gone out of its way to construct a narrative about Iran as a ruthless terrorist state. Well, let's look at the facts. And I wrote about this the other day at sonar21.com. To my knowledge, Iran has never been involved in a war of aggression in terms of invading another country for whatever reason. They've been around now for 46 years. In that 46-year period, the United States has been involved with multiple invasions of other countries. Now, the United States likes to say, well, Iran's bad because they build explosively formed projectiles, EFPs they were called, during the U.S. invasion of Iraq. that were used to attack U.S. soldiers. Well, hey guys, it's called war. Number one, uh, the United States has been notorious for providing weapons and knowledge to kill other people around the world. So when Iran provides support to Iraqis who are fighting back against an illegal criminal invasion of Iraq and killing U.S. soldiers or wounding them, too damn bad, guys. You shouldn't be out invading another country. All right? So, that's evidence of Iranian terrorism. And it's just like, oh, please. Uh, yeah, we call it terrorism. And then when we do it, it's liberation, it's freedom fighting. It's all that crap. The attacks on the U.S. embassies in Beirut and the bombing of the Marine barracks. Again, who was killing Lebanese Shia? It was the United States. We were bombing, shelling into the Bekaa Valley back then. And then when they fight back, we can't take it. So I'm really getting tired of this U.S. playing the victim when we are the victimizer. And we've done it repeatedly to Iran. The number of scientists, the latest assassination of nuclear physicists isn't the first time. Hell, it was being done 12, 13 years ago. So it is, what's sort of surprising is Iran has not fought back. But I had one of the readers at Sonar 21, a fellow actually by the name of Yusuf. He is a Native American. He's a convert to Islam. He started off in the Salafi wing, but then came to his senses and realized these are some crazy people, and is a Shia. But he wrote an outstanding explanation to me about why, how Iran is fighting and why it fights the way it does. And in fact, one of the things, when you look at these attacks that the Iranian response to the Israelis, they killed very, very few civilians, only 29. I mean, they destroyed entire buildings, but only killed 29 civilians. At least that's what Israel's admitting to. Now, it wasn't the case in Iran. They killed upwards of over 600, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's just, let's look at what people actually do. The Israelis are the terrorists. And, I hope we don't get your channel canceled by saying that, but the definition of terrorism, according to Bibi Netanyahu, I like his definition, the use of violence against civilians for political purposes. This is the simplified version. Who's killed the most civilians? Israel's got so much blood on its hands. Iran doesn't.
Many people right now in Iran are arguing, so what would be the next step for us to deal with the United States? Because Donald Trump, with the negotiations, with his attitude in attacking Iran,
right?
What would you say, Larry? What do you feel about the way that Iran should somehow pursue these sort of talks, or maybe these sort of negotiations? I don't know. Do you see any sort of outcome coming out of negotiations? Is the United States capable of making a deal under the Trump administration?
No, incapable. Whatever. It can't be trusted. The various games that Trump has played with this, but ultimately to justify attacking Iran. The United States, if I'm sitting in the position as an Iranian, I look at the United States is an enemy. There's no way to peacefully coexist with it. We have to be prepared to defend ourselves. Now, I'm not saying that Iran should attack the United States, but I'm saying that arm yourself, improve your home defense, recognize that they're going to attack you again. Establish your relationships with Russia and China. Build up, get some friends who are actually going to respect you as a people and as a country. But recognize there's, right now, and it's not even Donald Trump. It's much deeper than that. This is this desire to destroy Iran. Uh, I was just starting my career, upper, studying for a PhD back in 1979, and recall vividly when Iran took the American hostages with with myself not really having an understanding or appreciation of what the United States had done meddling in Iran previously, overthrowing the government of Mossadegh. So the way it was presented to me and all my cohorts back then, we were all 23, 24 years old, was that Iran just out of the blue attacked America, took hostages. No, that wasn't the case, but that's how it was presented. So now that those people, well, when we were 24 then, we're now 70 years old, 68 years old, and many still hold that memory of how dare Iran, they attacked us without reason, without justification. Well, no, actually it was just the opposite. They were reacting in fury to the U.S. Overthrowing a legitimate government and then installing a government that was corrupt and vicious. And then to top it off, one thing you hear, oh, those Iranians are chanting death to America. Yeah, we encouraged Saddam Hussein to start the war, invade Iran, a war that killed upwards of 500,000 Iranians and provided them with chemical weapons. Yeah, when Iran chants death to America, they have a pretty good reason for doing so. Because the United States has been the aggressor. So, yeah, coming back to your question, what's to negotiate over? The United States is not a trustworthy negotiating partner, especially under Donald Trump.
I remember that I studied those days of war because I was a little kid in those days. But I studied those days, and many people were arguing that in those days that Saddam Hussein used chemical weapons against Iran, and a lot of people were suggesting to the supreme leader of Iran in those days, Khomeini, and Ayatollah Khomeini in those days, they were asking, we can do the same. We can attack them with chemical weapons. If you just order that, we're going to do this. And he said, no, we're not going to use chemical weapons against them. Let them use it. These are a nation. We know how fragile, how the situation was somehow chaotic when the revolution came, has happened in Iran. But even in those days, Iran didn't consider killing and people with chemical weapons in order to achieve something on the battlefield. I don't know why anybody would assume that Iran would use it against Israel. I would argue, even if Iran had nuclear weapons, any sort of weapons, they're not going to use it in Israel, because you look at the Iranian attack on Israel, it's all about the strategic targets in Israel.
Right. Yeah, that's the when you look at the map that I think Iran produced, but I think it's accurate. They, excuse me, they were focused on hitting key power plants, refineries, ports, seaports, airports, research institutions, businesses that are connected directly with the Israeli military and intelligence headquarters. What's interesting is from just if you're going to fight a no holds barred war, take out the water treatment plants in Israel. Without water, man, they'll die. Iran didn't do that, and I would argue Iran's been far more humane. And this fellow that wrote the essay that I published at Sonar 21, made a point talking about the how the theology of the Shia version of Islam is a guiding principle here, and I think he's right. I think he's absolutely correct. The Iranians are demonstrating far more humanity than the Zionists are.
What else Israel can do in order to bring the United States into the conflict? What I don't see anything but false flag operations, maybe inside the United States.
Yeah.
Something to. How do you see that possibility? How is that gonna somehow convince Donald Trump that?
No, I think it's highly likely. It is. Again, the narrative has been built that Iran is the number one sponsor of terrorism, even though we've got a track record of the countries that are, the terrorist groups that have actually been attacking and killing civilians were not Iranian backed. It was just the opposite. It was the Sunnis, groups tied to Saudi Arabia. 9/11 is the classic example, and so yeah, that's what I'm afraid of in the coming weeks. That there will be that kind of attack. It will be blamed on Iran, and then the United States is going to try to go back out and retaliate and kill more Iranians. And this last exchange between the United States, it's reported that the U.S. Gave Iran a 2-hour warning that we're going to go bomb these places, and then Iran gave the United States advance warning. Yeah, we're going to hit Al Udeid. If it comes to pass that there is this false flag, the United States retaliates, then the next retaliations by Iran will not be signaled in advance, and this thing could really escalate out of control.
When people like Lindsey Graham and Blumenthal, these people are advocating to arm Ukraine, to send more weapons, to send more aid to Ukraine. I assume that they don't care about Ukraine. They don't care about the future of Ukraine. But what is the case with Israel? Do they really care about Israel? Do they really want something for Israel? Or they don't care the same way that they do with the case of Ukraine? Because in this way, they're talking about helping Israel in terms to defeat Iran. It's unbelievable. You cannot have a nation of 8 million people to defeat a nation of 90 million people. It's somehow delusional if you go with that plan, even with the United States in the region, because the United States has to have some sort of bases in the region to attack Iran. If they cannot use the Arab states, and they're going to be hit, and Diego Garcia is somehow defenseless. If they use Diego Garcia, how is that going to? What I want to know what's going on in the mind of these people when they're talking about attack on Iran.
Well, they're not. Unfortunately, so many of my fellow citizens have a very deluded view of U.S. military capability, and you hear it coming out of Donald Trump's mouth. Oh, we got the mightiest army. We're the best. Nobody's better than us. We're great. Nobody's willing to step back and take an objective look at the last 3 years. That we've discovered that the United States is no longer capable of industrial production of artillery shells, attack of missiles, Patriot missiles, we can only produce in limited quantities. We've produced very elaborate, expensive weapon systems that, when they are attacked, they cannot be quickly or easily replaced. So, like the THAAD, the one air defense system, the THAAD missile, the Theater High Altitude Air Defense, THAAD. Each one of those missiles costs $13 million a piece. You fire 2 or 3 at one incoming missile that costs, an Iranian ballistic missile that may have cost $1 million to produce. You're firing $26 million or $39 million, 3 missiles at $1 million missile. I mean, it's just, it's economic insanity. So we're at a position that we think we can solve everything militarily, and yet we cannot, as was illustrated with the Houthis. That's what you keep trying to wake people up to that. Look, all of our tough talk, we're going to wipe them out. Yeah, and we killed a lot of civilians and accomplished what? The Houthis are still lobbing missiles into Israel. They still got the Red Sea effectively shut down to, any ship that's headed for Israel. It's not getting through. It's going to be targeted. So it is, the U.S. foolishly believes that it can solve these things militarily. And there's a diplomatic way forward, but the United States has zero. It's not a diplomacy based upon, hey, each side has, valid positions to present, and we'll see if we can find an accommodation. We're trying to force our view on others. That's our deal. And, Iran wisely up to this point, has rejected it. But, what I've been sort of surprised by is Iran is sort of, they still naively believed, hey, the U.S. wants to negotiate. Maybe we can, there's something we can talk about. We're not to be trusted. We just saw that here was Trump said, okay, hey, we'll see you guys on Sunday. And we knew whether Israel's going to attack on Friday because Trump said, I knew all about it. I knew every detail.